The Caliph Harun al-Rashid was sleepless one night, so he sent for Al-Asmay and Hussein al-Khalia and said to them, "Tell me a story, you twain, and do thou begin, O Hussein." He said, "'Tis well, O commander of the faithful," and thus began. Some years ago, I dropped downstream to Bassorah to present to Mohammed bin Sulayman al-Rabi a qasida or elegy I had composed in his praise, and he accepted it and bade me abide with him. One day, I went out to Al-Murbad by way of Al-Muhaliya and, being oppressed by the excessive heat, went up to a great door to ask for drink, when I was suddenly aware of a damsel, as she were a branch swaying, with eyes languishing, eyebrows arched and finely penciled, and smooth cheeks rounded, clad in a shift the color of a pomegranate flower, and a mantilla of Sana'a work, but the perfect whiteness of her body overcame the redness of her shift, through which glittered two breasts like twin granados, and a waist, as it were a roll of fine Coptic linen, with creases like scrolls of pure white paper stuffed with musk. Moreover, O Prince of true believers, round her neck was slung an amulet of red gold that fell down between her breasts, and on the plane of her forehead were browlocks like jet. Her eyebrows joined, and her eyes were like lakes. She had an aquiline nose, and their undershell like lips showing teeth like pearls. Pleasantness prevailed in every part of her, but she seemed dejected, disturbed, distracted, and in the vestibule came and went, walking upon the hearts of her lovers, whilst her legs made mute the voices of their ankle rings. And indeed she was as saith the poet, "Each portion of her charms we see seems of the whole a simile." I was overawed by her, O commander of the faithful, and drew near her to greet her, and behold, the house and vestibule and highways breathed fragrant with musk. So I saluted her, and she returned my salam with a voice dejected and heart depressed, and with the ardor of passion consumed. Then said I to her, "O my lady, I am an old man and a stranger and sore troubled by thirst. Wilt thou order me a draught of water and win reward in heaven?" She cried, "Away, O Sheikh, from me. I am distracted from all thought of meat and drink." And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased to say her permitted say, when it was the 694th night. She pursued, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the damsel said, 'O Sheikh, I am distracted from all thought of meat and drink.' Quoth I, 'By what ailment, O my lady?' And quoth she, 'I love one who dealeth not justly by me, and I desire one who of me will none. Wherefore I am afflicted with the wakefulness of those who wake stargazing.' I asked, 'O my lady, is there on the wide expanse of earth one to whom thou hast a mind, and who to thee hath no mind?' Answered she, 'Yes, and this for the perfection of beauty and loveliness and goodliness wherewith he is endowed.' 'And why standeth thou in this porch?' Inquired I. 'This is his road,' replied she, 'and the hour of his passing by.' I said, 'O my lady, have ye ever foregathered and had such commerce and converse as might cause this passion?' At this she heaved a deep sigh. The tears rained down her cheeks, as they were dew falling upon roses, and she versified with these couplets: 'We were like willow boughs in garden shining, and scented joys in happiest life combining. Wean as one bough from other self would rend, and oh, thou seest this for that repining.' Quoth I, 'O maid, and what betideth thee of thy love for this man?' And quoth she, 'I see the sun upon the walls of his folk, and I think the sun is he. Or haply I catch sight of him unexpectedly, and am confounded, and the blood and the life fly my body, and I abide in unreasoning, plight a weak or an a sennight.' Said I, 'Excuse me, for I also have suffered that which is upon thee of love longing, and distraction of soul, and wasting of frame, and loss of strength, and I see in thee pallor of complexion, and emaciation, such as testify of the fever fits of desire. But how shouldst thou be unsmitten of passion, and thou a sojourner in the land of Bassorah?' Said she, 'By Allah, before I fell in love of this youth, I was perfect in beauty and loveliness and amorous grace, which ravished all the princes of Bassorah, till he fell in love with me.' I asked, 'O maid, "And who parted you?" And she answered, "The vicissitudes of fortune, but the manner of our separation was strange, and 'twas on this wise. One New Year's Day I had invited the damsels of Bassorah, and amongst them a girl belonging to Surin, who had bought her out of Oman for 80,000 dirhams. She loved me and loved me to madness, and when she entered she threw herself upon me and well nigh tore me in pieces with bites and pinches. Then we withdrew apart to drink wine at our ease, till our meat was ready and our delight was complete. And she toyed with me and I with her, and now I was upon her and now she was upon me. Presently the fumes of the wine moved her to strike her hand on the ankle of my petticoat trousers, whereby it became loosed, unknown of either of us, and my trousers fell down in our play. At this moment he came in unobserved, and seeing me thus, was wroth at the sight and made off, as the Arab filly hearing the tinkle of her bridle. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say, when it was the 695th night. She resumed, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the maiden said to Husain al-Khalia, when my lover saw me playing, as I described to thee, with Surin's girl, he went forth in anger, and 'tis now, O Sheikh, 3 years ago. And since then I have never ceased to excuse myself to him and coax him and crave his indulgence, but he will neither cast a look at me from the corner of his eye, nor write me a word, nor speak to me by messenger, nor hear from me aught." Quoth I, "Hark, I maid, is he an Arab or an Ajam?" And quoth she, "Out on thee, he is of the princes of Bassorah." "Is he old or young?" asked I, and she looked at me laughingly and answered, "Thou art certainly a simpleton. He is like the moon on the night of its full, smooth-cheeked and beardless, nor is there any defect in him except his aversion to me." Then I put the question, "What is his name?" And she replied, "What wilt thou do with him?" I rejoined, "I will do my best to come at him, that I may bring about reunion between you." Said she, "I will tell thee on condition that thou carry him a note." And I said I have no objection to that. Then quoth she, "His name is Zamra bin al-Mughira, hight Abu al-Saka, and his palace is in the Murbad." Therewith she called to those within for encase and paper, and tucking up her sleeves, showed 2 wrists like broad rings of silver. She then wrote after the basmala as follows: "My lord, the omission of blessings at the head of this my letter shows mine insufficiency, and know that had my prayer been answered, thou hadst never left me. For how often have I prayed that thou shouldest not leave me, and yet thou didst leave me, were it not that distress with me exceedeth the bounds of restraint. That which thy servant hath forced herself to do in writing this writ were an aidance to her, despite her despair of thee, because of her knowledge of thee that thou wilt fail to answer. Do thou fulfill her desire, my lord, of a sight of thee from the porch, as thou passest in the street, wherewith thou wilt quicken the dead soul in her, or, far better for her still than this, do thou write her a letter with thine own hand, and appoint it in requital of the intimacy that was between us in the nights of time past, whereof thou must preserve the memory. My lord, was I not to thee a lover sick with passion? And thou answer my prayer. I will give to thee thanks and to Allah praise, and so the peace." Then she gave me the letter, and I went away. Next morning I repaired to the door of the Viceroy Mohammed bin Sulayman, where I found an assembly of the notables of Bassorah, and amongst them a youth who adorned the gathering, and surpassed in beauty and brightness all who were there, and indeed the Emir Mohammed set him above himself. I asked who he was, and behold, it was Zamra himself. So I said in my mind, "Verily, there hath befallen yonder unhappy one that which hath befallen her." Then I betook myself to the Murbad, and stood waiting at the door of his house, till he came riding up in state, when I accosted him, and invoking more than usual blessings on him, handed him the missive. When he read it and understood it, he said to me, "O Sheikh, we have taken other in her stead. Say me, wilt thou see the substitute?" I answered, "Yes." Whereupon he called out a woman's name, and there came forth a damsel who shamed the 2 greater lights. swelling-breasted, walking the gait of one who hasteneth without fear, to whom he gave the note, saying, Do thou answer it. When she read it, she turned pale at the contents, and said to me, O old man, crave pardon of Allah for this that thou hast brought. So I went out, O commander of the faithful, dragging my feet, and returning to her asked leave to enter. When she saw me, she asked, What is behind thee? And I answered, Evil and despair. Quoth she, Have thou no concern of him? Where are Allah in his power? Then she ordered me 500 dinars, and I took them and went away. Some days after I passed by the place and saw their horsemen and footmen. So I went in, and lo, these were the companions of Zamra, who were begging her to return to him. But she said, No, by Allah, I will not look him in the face. And she prostrated herself in gratitude to Allah and exultation over Zamra's defeat. Then I drew near her, and she pulled out to me a letter wherein was written, After the Bismillah, my lady, but for my forbearance towards thee I would relate somewhat of what betided from thee, and set out my excuse, in that thou transgressedst against me, weenest thou west manifestly a sinner against thyself, and myself in breach of vows and lack of constancy, and preference of another over us, for, by Allah, on whom we call for help against that which was of thy free will, thou didst transgress against the love of me, and so the peace. Then she showed me the presents and rarities he had sent her, which were of the value of 30,000 dinars. I saw her again after this, and Zamra had married her. Quoth Al-Rashid, Had not Zamra been beforehand with us, I should certainly have had to do with her myself. And men tell the tale of